Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Kimberly Hubenette, and welcome to the next episode of Live, Love, Survive, and Thrive. I'm here today with my dad and my mentor for life, Dr. William Quan. And I'm here because we're here talking about how to live, love, survive, and thrive, just like my podcast. And today we're going to talk a little bit about my father's journey through grief and how he's survived after the loss of my mom, Anna. They were high school sweethearts. They did everything as a first together, right?
That's right.
And, it's a special time that I can share with him and with you all about what it is with this grief journey. Everybody is born, everybody dies, and it's what's in between that's the journey in life that's different and special to all of us. So, Dad, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and history?
Okay. I was born in a small town called El Centro in 1944, and I grew up with uh, my parents who were from China. They came over my dad came over in the 30s.
Uh-huh.
My mom came over when she married my dad in the 40s, early 40s.
Uh-huh.
And we were raised, I would say, conservatively. We grew up in two houses. One was an older house that was small. Then my dad built a second house right next door that was nice and roomy. So, and my dad had a grocery store. He actually worked in his father's grocery store first for the first like 10 years of his life in America. Came over when he was 13 years old with basically the shirt on his back, and his dad taught him how to work in a grocery store and how to survive in El Centro, California, which was at that time a small town, very hot in the southwestern part of the United States. And my dad learned at an early stage how to survive. He was my mentor. I we didn't talk much, but he was a good example of what to do to thrive in a new country. And one of my favorite questions that he asked me when I was uh, about 17 years old, I was in high school. He asked me point blank one day after we were closing the grocery store. He goes, "Will, what are you?" And I thought about his question, and I'm born in America. I wanted to give my dad a serious answer. So he asked me, "What are you?" He actually wanted to hear that I was a Chinese. So I thought about his question and I answered him thusly. I told him, "I am an American." And personally, I knew he did not like that answer. He didn't hear Chinese. Now, as I'm 81 years old to be, if he were alive today and he asked me the same question, and now being older and wiser, I have thought about that question numerous times in the past. And I would answer my dad now with an answer that would make us both happy. I would tell him, "I am a Chinese American." That would have made him happy. He would have heard Chinese, and I would have been happy because I put American in it. So Chinese American. I grew up uh, in a small town. There was a lot of prejudice in this town. There's like a white section and a section called the East Side where they wanted the Chinese, the Mexicans, and the blacks to live in. And I happened to grow up right on the line of demarcation that separated the West from the East. And I didn't know the difference. To me, it was a normal existence. I loved growing up in the neighborhood and I thrived, but I also experienced a lot of prejudice from some of my white classmates in grade school. And every time they make fun of my background as Chinese, I'd beat them up. I was not going to stand for prejudice from my peers, my equals. And I got in a lot of fights when I was younger. And you know what? I found out after I beat up my opponents, they became my friends. They didn't make fun of me no more. And so that was my way of standing up for what I believed in. I was used to, at a young age, to standing up for what you believed in so that you could live and, and thrive in an environment. So then, as I went through school growing up, I worked in my dad's grocery stores as a cashier. He didn't have me stocking shelves or anything. I'd come back after school and I'd be the cashier along with my mom. We check out the customers as they bought their stuff. And but see, having grown up in a grocery store environment, I came home from school. I had my usual ice cream, my candy, my sodas, all that. I even made bologna sandwiches in my dad's butcher shop, and I enjoyed eating those. So I had more or less, I think, an easy life at it. And I enjoyed growing up in a grocery store. And matter of fact, when I was in high school, my counselor, a lady named Mrs. Bidwell, ran me through these uh, questions and tests to see what I would thrive in as I grew up. And I answered these questions and answered according to my experience and stuff. And she told me I'd make a good groceryman. I was like 17 or 18. So I told myself, I don't want to be a groceryman. Of course, I could run a grocery store like my dad did and my granddad did. But my dad told me to get out of the grocery business, to get an education. And he did everything he could to get me to get higher education. And like in junior college, I excelled in science and math. And in a university level, I went to dental school, and I went to the best dental school in the world, USC, University of Southern California in LA. It's the best dental school in the world. And I often think like I was one of about 2,000 applicants for this position I was applying for. I was 20 years old, applying to get into the best dental school in the world. And the assistant dean interviewed me, and he was one of the world's best dentists. So the first thing out of his mouth was, I walked in. I mean, I was spiff and polished shoes, fancy tie, suit, and everything. I try and make a good impression. And so the first thing out of his mouth was, he says, "Quan, I'm a 20-year-old." He goes, "First off, you don't know shit about teeth." He shocked me with that statement. And I don't know what he was trying to do. He was trying to, like, I guess, see how I would react to an adverse situation. But see, I was smart enough to know that this guy was going to interview me, and I didn't want to make him mad at me. Uh, so I didn't argue with his statement like, "You don't know shit about teeth." So I answered, "Yes, sir, you're right. I don't know that much about teeth." Then he kept reading my transcripts and he found out that I was from El Centro, California. And see, that day, this guy was looking for someone from a small town that was smart enough to go to the best dental school in the world. And after he graduated, to go back there and work and spread the message of the USC philosophy of dentistry. He was looking at me. My name could have been Mr. Black. He would have taken me. So I often think, what was he looking for when he interviewed me? Because like I told you, he had 2,000 applicants and he picked me out of the crowd and he got me into dental school. And when I left that interview, I was ecstatic. I was happier than heck. And I knew I was in. Then, however, when I went into dental school, I was already married to my wife, my high school sweetheart. And dental school was so hard. I was basically carrying 30 units a semester, whereas the normal college load was like 12 or 15 units a semester. In dental school, we were carrying 30, and it was hard as heck. It was the hardest thing I ever encountered in my life. And within the first few months, I even told my wife, I go, dental school is too hard. I didn't know it was this hard. And I think I'm going to quit. And my wife, it always helps to have a good wife that'll back you in anything you do. So my wife was my age. She was actually a year older. She was 21. I was 20. She was smart enough to know to give me encouragement because I was going to quit. She goes, you can do it. He didn't pick you out of the crowd for you to fail. So I stuck it out. I endured and I went through dental school. It was the hardest thing in the world. But hey, I'd come home after school. My wife would take care of me and feed me and give me encouragement. And we were on a strict budget. I think my dad sent us $200 a month to pay the rent, to buy groceries, and anything left over we could go and enjoy like a hamburger or something out. But we had no money left. We learned to budget ourselves. We even went from Los Angeles, where the dental school was, back to El Centro in my 64 Chevy, like once a month, and we'd load up in my dad's grocery store and go back 3.5 hours to LA, and we'd live off of my dad's groceries. So we didn't have to overextend ourselves on the budget. So that went on for 4 years. Like I told you earlier, it was the hardest thing in my world. And in my senior year, my daughter Kimberly was born to us. And my wife wanted a family. And I told her, I don't even have a job yet. I don't even know if I'm going to graduate from dental school and work as a dentist. She goes, I don't care. I'm going to have a baby. So my daughter Kimberly was born. I was in the last semester of dental school. And when I saw Kimberly being born, we took my wife to the gynecology office, and my daughter was born to me, and she was a cute little baby being walked down the aisle in this bassinet. I looked in there, and there was a little baby. See, up until that point, I basically and my wife, we were just a couple. We were having a good time in our life, being together and all. We didn't have major responsibility. Then I looked at my daughter. She was just born, and a bolt of lightning hit me. The bolt of lightning said, you are now not just a couple, you are a family. This little baby is going to trust you and believe in you because you're going to raise her as a kid to become an adult and all. And I woke up when I saw my daughter, my baby daughter, and it changed my life like a bolt of lightning hit me. And the lightning was, you're now responsible for a third person in your life. not just your wife and you had a little daughter, and that changed my life completely. And it was a moment of awakening. After dental school, when I started my practice in El Centro, California, we had two more children, two more sons. But my sons didn't strike me with a bolt of lightning as being responsible. I was already accepting the fact that I would have a family, so I had two more members of the family. And hey, we were a family with three kids. We worked like I'm now in my 55th year of practicing general dentistry, and I'm not bragging. I've gotten some awards from the city of San Diego that I'm one of the better dentists in San Diego. I've never worked a second in San Diego. But when I refer some of my special needs, my special procedures to San Diego, the specialists, they look at my dental work in my patient's mouth and they go, Quan ain't bad because I'm a USC dentist. So I've been voted one of the better dentists in San Diego, and money didn't buy those awards. They were voted by my peer specialists who liked my work. So I'm proud of that. So like I say, I'm in my 55th year of practicing dentistry. I'm still working at age 81. I happen to like what I'm doing. I don't have too many other hobbies. I like to dove hunt and gun collect, but those hobbies cannot keep you going. Uh, like when I'm in San Diego for the rest of the month, I only work 2 to 3 days a month in El Centro. The rest of the month, I'm watching TV for 8 hours a day. And you cannot have a hobby of watching TV 8 hours a day. So I come down to El Centro and practice 2 or 3 times a week, rather a
How old
month.
are you?
I'm 81 years old.
And you're still
I'm still working,
practicing dentistry.
and I enjoy doing what I'm doing. And I see some of my colleagues, like I have one of my best friends, he's a fellow dentist that came out of USC. He and I are different in age by 2 days different. He is by himself. He's been divorced 2 times, lives by himself. I've lost my late wife from a disease 18 years ago, and I remarried my second wife about 16 years ago. And I have someone in my life that gives me direction. She is not as good as my first wife, but she's better than being by myself. Because I look at my good friend, he's by himself, and he's like, I'm 81, he's 81. He's aged like he looks like he's 90 years old.
How many years were you and Mom married?
We were married 44 years. We dated about 4 to 5 years before we got married. So I was basically with Kimberly's mom for 50 years. And when she died, you guys, the grief was so major, I almost died. I felt like we were visiting her grave today, talking about a nephew of mine whose wife died early and he committed suicide. See, I had thought about doing that myself, like the pain and the grief was so bad that I could survive. Then it dawned on me, my wife's memories and her teaching, she guided us. She wouldn't want me to give up. She would want me to keep going as a mentor, as a tribute to hold the family together, which I am doing at this point.
How many grandkids do you have right now?
I have 4 grandkids, 3 granddaughters, and 1 grandson. And
you have to keep them going.
I have to keep them going to give them pep talks and give them experience from my past on what they're going to encounter as they go through. Because you guys, life is not a smooth, even journey. Life is a bumpy up and down journey. You have your highs and your lows, like death in the family, financial problems, no patience this day, patience tomorrow and stuff. You have to just hold on the bumpy road and you just keep going. And I've inspired Kimberly, my dentist daughter, to follow in my footsteps. And she knows that life ain't easy, but you have been trained to do dentistry well, and you can tolerate life, whatever it has thrown at you. Like my daughter, she lost her husband like it was 3 or 4 years ago.
It's actually been 6 years now.
Okay, 6 years, and you just hang in there, you tough it out like I am doing. Like every time I think of my departed wife, which is I constantly think of her in a daily basis. When I wake up in the morning, I say good morning to her. When I go to sleep at night, I say good night to her. And the rest of the day, as I'm doing my dentistry, I think of her all the time because she is the foundation and the pivotal thing in my life that keeps me going. Without her, I wouldn't be here right now.
So back to when she was diagnosed, what was she diagnosed
She was
with?
diagnosed with myelofibrosis, which is her bone marrow turning to scar tissue.
And you had been married for how long?
At that point, we were married for like 40, like 2 years.
Okay.
And she died in the hospital at 40. We celebrate our 44th anniversary when she died that night on me. And once she was diagnosed with that problem, I myself or one of my children would always babysit my wife at the hospital in San Diego. One of us would be by her side at all times. And I quit my dental practice to be with her. And hey, we were with her. See, my wife told me this crazy story about her dad dying when he was like in his 90s. And everyone in her family was working, and no one was at the hospital when her dad died. And that made her very sad. So when we went to the hospital with my sick wife, she told me that story 2 times. She didn't tell me she was afraid of dying, but she told me the story 2 times, and I realized my wife was afraid to be alone in case something bad happened to her. So we shut the practice down. We took turns babysitting her. Someone was at the hospital every second of the day. We ate there, we slept there in the waiting room. Hey man, life wasn't easy, it was hard. Kimberly would come down on weekends and spend the weekend with us as we babysit my wife because we loved Anna so much. We didn't want her to be by herself in case something bad happened.
So it seems like it's been, what, 18 years now that happened?
Yeah, yeah.
And as you progress through the hardship of your grief, when mom passed away, I remember you were in a tailspin.
Yes, yes.
Trajectory towards not wanting to
I
live.
was going downhill.
To the point where I remember that you did not want to pay your bills. I remember she did everything for you at that point. And, listeners, sometimes, you don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes you don't want to do anything, and then
That's
you
right.
think life's going to go around and work without you. Well, if you don't pay your bills, well, sometimes, your water might get cut off, or your electricity or whatever.
They were my
You
phone
don't
bill.
wanna
They were
do
all
that.
cut off from time to time. And I even I didn't even pay my federal taxes for about 9 years. I think I owed like $500,000 in back taxes.
And team, you guys, listeners, you really don't want to do that. So we don't. This is a learning experience, but we're just here to say that life can be very challenging. and you just have to learn from others and learn from your experiences of what others are doing to maybe do not do that.
That's right.
And then basically after, I remember that you went through this period of depression and you didn't want to be by yourself. My brother Derek and his family would always pick you up and take you places, and you'd spend the night over there at their house. And, I remember though that you told me you still felt alone because mom wasn't around, because she was your everything, right?
Yes.
And no matter how much people were around you, you still felt lonely.
Yes. Yes. See, like I kept working during that time, and then I have many patients. They tell me now, 18 years later, when they came into my office, they could see the pain in my face. They felt bad for me, like especially one lady named Frankie Covarrubias. When I was done working on her teeth, she could see the pain in my face. When she got up to leave, by the time she got out of the chair, she was sobbing for me. And I looked at her, I go, oh, God dang. Like, hey, man, I don't know what to tell my patient. They know that they couldn't do anything for me. It was like something I had to cope with myself and to get over it somehow. Actually, you never get over it. You just learn to tolerate the loneliness and the grief, and you just keep going.
But somehow you did find a way to survive, because 18 years later you're remarried.
Yes.
And you do share life with somebody again.
Yes, yes.
Right?
But it's never the same, you guys. Your first marriage with your first wife, I think, is pivotal in our growth and acceptance of life. You learn to live with someone else, and the main thing is you love them. They take care of you. You'll never forget them. See, there's an old saying like, oh, time takes care of everything. I go, time does not take care of everything. You just learn to tolerate it. And right now, I'm in that learning to tolerate it stage. And I still get times in my life, like when I'm back in El Centro living in my house with my wife, that she uh, uh, she developed our home there. I still miss her a lot.
There are things that you do ritually at our house in El Centro. You keep the light on.
Yes.
Because why?
See, like one interesting thing that happened right after my wife died in San Diego, we waited a couple days before I took my whole family, my kids, my adult kids, and my grandkids. I took them back to my house in El Centro to plan my wife's funeral. So, see, I always thought that I have this belief, rightfully so or wrongly so, that my wife, even though she's gone, she's still with it. She travels with me. She's with me. Like when I'm driving down to El Centro by myself, I look to the passenger side, and at first I used to see my wife sitting there comfortably, riding with me going home. Now, 18 years later, I don't see her there no more, but I personally know her spirit is still with me. So everything I do, rightfully or wrongly, I I have my wife's memory in my mind on what she would want me to do. Maybe it's not fair to my second wife because I still love my first wife, but my second wife, she gives me a life. She takes care of me. She feeds me, and she's a good companion and stuff. She keeps me going, but not as much as my first wife's memory keeps me going.
And she serves as second services to you, right? A secondary types of things that are different than mom.
Yes.
But also tell the listeners she's also a widow, right?
She is a widow. She had been a widow for 10 years before I married her. And she was my patient when I first, after about a year of living by myself after my late wife died. And then I met her randomly in a Chinese restaurant working as a waitress. My judge's son, Derek, took me into this Chinese restaurant, and there was my second wife to be as a waitress. And there's this classic example of what she did that I told her that was the smartest thing she ever did. She had written her phone number, but she was a widow. She knew I was a widower. She wrote her phone number on a nice piece of paper. Then it dawned on her, this is Dr. Quan, and I'm Linda the waitress. Nothing is ever going to happen. So she crumpled up the phone number and threw it in the trash can. Then she watched me walk out of the restaurant, and she decided to take a chance, a gamble, a major gamble in her life. She went and picked up the trash paper from the trash can. She ran out to the parking lot, and she put it in my hand. And folks, I didn't have to open that piece of trash paper. I knew what was on it. It was her phone number. So I opened it later. I was exactly right. It was her phone number. She decided to take a chance and offer me a date or something. And I dated her the next week, and my second courtship started. And I realized, like my late wife and I were the same age. I wanted on my second wife someone younger because I didn't want someone my age to be my second wife because the same thing might happen again. So I married a younger woman. She was 13 years younger than me. And the rest is history. I've been with her 15 years now. And at first, I had to fight my own family. They didn't want me to get remarried because their memory of their mother was major. They didn't want someone to replace her. Like Linda, my second wife, never replaced Anna. She was just there to be with me for the second phase of my life, to get through life somehow on the straight and narrow, the bumpy road, and try to live it out.
And it's a different kind of relationship, right?
Yes, it is.
So now that I know, like when Mark passed away, my husband, if I ever and when I ever decide to form another relationship with somebody,
Yeah.
they're going to have to understand that, Mark was my husband prior. And I think it is fair to say that widows and widowers know the pathway differently
Yes.
than people that are not
That's
widows
right.
or widowers. And not to say that all widows and widowers should remarry
That's
widow
right.
and widowers. However, find somebody that is open to keeping that
Yes.
relationship in,
See, I have, there's a place in San Diego when I'm leaving it to come back to El Centro. It's called Crest. And when I reach this area in Crest, it's by El Cajon. I talk to myself as I'm driving. There's three ways a person can cope with the loss of his spouse, his or her spouse. One way is like what I did. You get remarried and you have another spouse. Another way is I have a patient. She lost her husband in El Centro about 20 years ago. She came to Crest, San Diego, and she moved in with her son and her grandchildren. That's a second way to cope with the loss. You move away from your old town and you live with your children. Or you could get, like in my case, get remarried. There is a third way of coping, which is the hardest way of all. And if you lose your spouse, you grin and bear it and you live by yourself and you try to get by. And that is the hardest way that you can survive, because I tried it for a year and I could not do it. I almost died from the loneliness. So there's three ways of coping with the loss of your spouse. You live with it, you move with your children, or you get remarried. And whenever I pass this area and crest, I these three ways come into my mind, and I think about it because I went one way and Shimamoto went another, and there's a third one, and that is the hardest thing. No one can tolerate that one.
Yeah, because you're stuck there, kind of. So,
It was,
we want to encourage people to move forward and, memorialize their loved one and do something, take
yeah,
action, be out in the uh, community, do stuff with your community,
yeah.
be present in life. Um, do you have a quote that you live by now that you've lived through all of this? What would you like to tell our listeners?
Well, one of my basic quotes that I've lived with all my life is you treat people the way you want to be treated your whole life. You don't you don't try to just make money off of them. You don't try to kiss their butt or whatever. You treat people rightfully. And I've also learned too that I've been telling this story to a lot of my patients recently. Like these patients, they're all from different walks of life. And I tell the patients, by the time you get to kindergarten, and I told this to my daughter just yesterday, by the time you get to kindergarten, you're like 5 or 6 years old. Your parents have instilled in you the difference between doing the right thing and the wrong thing. You basically know how to like cope with life, even though you're a kid. Then when you go into kindergarten, they teach you different other ways, like to get educated and to live with life. So that, but hey, by the time you get to kindergarten, I'm going to guess, over 50%, maybe 70% of how to cope with life. So, like my successful patients in their older days, I told them, before you got to school to learn all this stuff, you already were a good person. And so that's one way I have of justifying what I do. Like I heard this song uh, 2 days ago, and it was by Paul Anka from the 50s. The song was "I Did It My Way." So I myself think I did it my way. I live life with my spouse. We did it our way. Then that's what helps me now in the later times of my life to cope with everything. Like my kids, like Dr. Kim, the judge Quan, and my young son Greg, they try to spend valuable time with me. And see, I'm like everyone else. When you're younger, you get to experience all this stuff. You learn to cope with this stuff. And then when you're older, you can write a book about how to cope with everything. So I'm now in my older times, and I'm very realistic. I know that I might not be here in another 10 years, but hey, I try to keep my influence on my family, which is my basic unit of my life, and to inspire them and give them encouragement to keep going.
One thing I love about you is that ever since I remember, you have always written down, journaled
Yes,
daily,
yes,
and you continue to journal daily. So if I said, what did you do on,
yes.
you know,
I have a journal.
January something to, 1998, you could pick out
I can pick that sheet out.
and
I have a
find it.
pile from the floor up to about this high of my daily journals that I wrote down. I don't look at them, but I can tell you what day you want to know, like 30 years ago. I can pick that journal out and tell you what I did that
And
day.
what do you
What I
write in it?
did, my activities, uh, my thoughts, what I ate, what my blood sugars were and stuff. My MD told me to start writing everything down because I'm a diabetic and to know like what I ate, what my blood sugars were, and that way you have a record because our memory, we cannot be good enough are smart enough to go back and check everything. It's all written down. Yes, I do that. And my Kimberly wants to read my journals. They're like, who knows, 3 or 4 thousand pages.
Well,
of
nowadays
stuff.
we can digitize it
Okay.
and make, like even like create a book about your life.
Yeah. Hey.
And so, I've written a few books now. I've written Grid, Once in a Lifetime You Get a Chance to Start Over,
Okay.
which was a memorial to my husband, Mark. It was about surviving in the wilderness as well as surviving in life.
Yeah.
It basically shares, a lady that goes out into the wilderness after her husband passes away. And some people thought that it was me, and maybe it was me, but it was a lot of things that Mark had taught me about the wilderness because he was a survivor. Yeah. And then the second book that is going to come out pretty soon called The Itty Bitty 15 Steps to Live and Love and Survive. And that one's going to come out pretty soon. And then my third book, the name of this podcast, Live, Love, Survive, and Thrive, is also going to come out pretty soon. So, the theme is live, love, survive, and thrive. Mm-hmm. And I tell my listeners that, you have a journey in life. You have, if you're very religious or if you're spiritual, there's something out there that keeps us alive and created us. Yes. No matter if you believe in God, Jesus Christ, Buddha, or just spirituality itself. Mm-hmm. There's something that has created our human race and our world. And so when your loved one passes away, you're still here. Yes. And it's your duty and your job to memorialize that person. Mm-hmm. And keep going, because you have to live for your kids or your family or your children and show them the way, because there is a reason why you're still here. Right, Dad? Yes,
along the same lines, Kimberly, of what you're doing with your books, putting your thoughts down on the book, and mine putting my thoughts down on sheets of paper. I'm reading partially this book by Tom Hom. He's a mayor, a city councilman of San Diego. He had a successful real estate and restaurant chain, Tom Hom. He wrote this book called The Bumpy Road of a Rabbit. He was a rabbit. His birth animal was a rabbit, and his journey through life was a bumpy road, like I told you earlier. It wasn't smooth, and he wrote down all of his experiences, why he did this, why he did that, and when I read his book, it mirrors stuff that I've done and stuff that Kimberly has done. So we all can write a book about our life, because you know what? We can share, because every one of us has a different path through life. We can share that path with everyone who reads the book, and they can learn from what we've done, because the way I did it might not be the way Kimberly will do it, but she can learn that people experience similar things and they cope with it differently. So I I keep these crazy books in the bathroom when I'm sitting there. I glance through them, and I learn stuff. Even at my age, I tell myself at 81, I'm still learning something every day. So you keep your mind alert and open, and you will always learn stuff. Don't close off your mind and your thinking to learning new stuff. Even at our older age, we still learn stuff. That's why this is called Live, Love, Survive, and Thrive, right? And in my mind, Dad, you're a survivor and you're a thriver. Yes. You're thriving now in life at 81 years old. Yeah. You're thriving. Yeah. Wouldn't you say so? I think I'm doing okay. like my second wife, Linda. See, my kids don't know her too well, but I've lived with her for 15 years. She's telling me she had the same thing. She went through life going up and down, but she ended up now with me. Like when she was growing up in China, it wasn't easy. It was under Mao, and Mao was a how do you say, a very uh, how to say he liked to put your thumb on you and make sure you went a certain path. And Linda had to go a certain path. And I've learned a lot about Chinese people from my wife because she's a FOB. That means fresh off the boat. She was born in China, whereas I'm a ABC Chinese, American born Chinese, born in America. I'm like I told you guys earlier, I'm American born Chinese. Linda's a Chinese born Chinese, and I've learned stuff being with her. And people tell me she's too how do you say, set in her ways. But I'm very open. I'm very adaptable. I can learn from you. I can learn from her, and I'm learning all the time. And I happen to like being with Linda, but she is not Anna, but she's Linda herself, and she takes care of me.
That's great.
Yes.
See, so there's somebody out there for everybody.
Yes.
And there's certain things in life where different stages in life, and what I'm hearing from you say is that you could have a Anna, then you can have a Linda, and you can still be surviving and thriving.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I have I have a 90-year-old friend who's named Willie. He's 90 years old and he's doing the same thing I am doing. He's still thriving. He's learning. He wants to be 100 years old, another 10 years. So, he's very open. We have dinner together every 2 weeks when I'm down here, and we share things. He tells me what he's doing. I tell him what I'm doing. And, I saw this movie called Winchester 73. One of the key statements in Winchester 73 was uh, you have to be adaptable. There are things that happen to you, you have to cope with it. Life is not set according to a certain path. You have to cope with it. And like Winchester 73 also made another comment. If you have a friend, the guy had a good sidekick. If you have a friend, you're rich because you have someone you can share your life with. And I know Kimberly has a lot of friends. I only have a few. I could probably only count my friends on one hand. She has many friends. So Kimberly is a little more modern than I am. But hey, I'm older than her by almost 30 years. So when she's my age, she can write another book about how life is because she will be smart. And see, I've watched my daughter grow up, and her life was bumpy too, like this. But hey, she went and she became one of the best dentists in California right now. And I only trust my teeth in her mouth. She only trusts her teeth in my mouth. So it's mutual. We compare notes on how to work on our patients, and she has different ideas than I do. And see, practicing dentistry, it's also like going through life on a bumpy road. There's different paths, different solutions for the same problem. And you have to like when I'm working on a tooth, I encounter this problem. I can go one way or I can go another way or somewhere in the middle. And it's based on my experience which way I pick for the patient. And like Kimberly and I, we talk about stuff like that. And like, how do you cope with this? How do you cope with that and stuff? And we have to be open. And Kimberly says that I'm her mentor, but you know what? She asked me early in her career, when she was just starting out. What's interesting, you guys, you have to know this. Kimberly went to the same dental school. She had the same instructors and professors that I did. It took most of us 8 years to go from undergrad through dental school, 8 years. Kimberly went through, after she got out of high school, she only took 6 years to finish dental school. So that tells me a lot, like she was smarter than the rest of us, and she was able to cope with it. And then another thing, some of my professors in dental school, I thought they were, pardon the pun, assholes. They would treat us very strictly and stuff. I hated them, some of them. And like one professor, and she knows who it is, the day before I got my diploma, he treated me like dirt. I wasn't a dentist yet. Then I got my diploma. And the guy comes up to me the next day with, I'm a doctor now, I'm a dentist, I have a diploma. And the day before I was dirt. This day he patted me on the shoulder. He goes, Quan, welcome to the club. That means I'm his equal. And I thought about hitting him. I thought about knocking him out because one day I was dirt, the next day I was his equal. He should have treated us like his equal from the start.
Well, they don't do that anymore. Thank goodness.
I'm glad. And another thing was, after Kim got done with dental school, they asked her to be a professor. You know, they didn't ask me to be a professor. I could be a professor today, but they asked her immediately after dental school to be a professor, and she was a professor there. So that the new professors, they treated the students more like people.
Yeah.
Yes. So there.
Well, you know, life is interesting, and my father and I share two things. We're both widow and widowers. We're both dentists, and he's my mentor, and he's my dad, and I'm his daughter, and we share a family.
Yes. And I'm very lucky to have Kimberly as my daughter. This lady is smart. And she she's smart enough to put her thoughts on her journey through life on the book so others can read it.
Now, one thing that I do, and my listeners should know this too, is that I put together outdoor lifestyle types of programs for people that have lost their loved ones or people that are, challenged by hardships. And I've been taking them on hikes. I've been taking them and sharing with them things that they could do in a wellness retreat. And my outdoor wellness grief retreat is hiking. It's
Hmm.
going to learn how to do a trap shoot. It's or learning how to fish, because I've learned these things through growing up with my family, my father, my brothers, and I want to share that with you guys. So if you ever are in my area or you want to find out how to reach me, go to my website at www.drkimberlyhubenette.com, and you can talk and find me through there. You can find what I'm doing. You can find my dental office if you want to look for dentistry, but you can also find me through my books. You can find me if you want to learn about these outdoor retreats that I host every year. I host about 3 of them a year, mostly in the summertime, June, July, August, and September. And then I'm also doing once a year a wellness retreat that is called a destination wellness retreat. Last year we did it in Cabo San Lucas, and I'm looking for times in Spain and Italy because we want to walk the Camino. So if you are interested, why don't you drop me a chat on my Instagram or Facebook, or send me a email at my email address, live, love, survive, thrive at gmail.com, and we can chat. So, folks, it's been real. It's been wonderful having my father be a guest, and maybe he'll come on again in a future episode. But make it a great day. I'm Dr. Kimberly Hubenette, and this is my father, Dr. William Quan, and we're saying goodbye for now, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.